Ready.
Okay.
Joe Culp, can you hear us now? At least he's on mute now.
Okay. Josh, I'm going to hit the go button and then I'll let Joe in on his audio side.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Very good. We will call this meeting to order. Counselors, just real quick, I got a text from Heather Willie about 30 minutes ago that she was not able to attend tonight. She had an emergency, a family emergency come up. So we will be without a lawyer tonight. It's not a big deal, but if any of you feel there's an issue where you have a legal question on, certainly raise that. And it's a manner that we can just continue that until we can have legal guidance on it. So just be aware of that one. And with that, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
for
which it
stands
one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Amy, just for, I think we've got to do this because it's a virtual meeting. Can you take roll call attendance?
Sure. President Garrett.
Present.
Vice President Traylor.
Here.
Councilor Burke.
Here.
Councilor Choi.
Here.
Councilor Culp.
Here.
Okay. Councilor Melton.
Here.
And Councilor Plunkett.
Here.
Thank you.
Very good. We are a quorum. First up, we've got approval of the memorandum of the October 29th, 2020 special meeting. A copy has been posted. Unless there's any questions, I'll make a motion to approve. Second from Councilor Plunkett. Amy, if you can go through the, we're not allowed, am I allowed to go to sort of raise your hand, or do we need to verbally indicate everyone?
I think we need to verbally.
All right. Okay, no problem. Go ahead.
Just to be safe. Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
President Garrett.
Yes.
Vice President Traylor.
Yes.
Councilor Burke.
Yep.
Councilor Choi.
Yes.
Councilor Culp.
Yes.
Councilor Melton.
Yes.
And Councilor Plunkett.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very good. The memoranda of the October 29th, 2020 special town council meeting is approved by a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Next, we have an approval of the November 2nd, 2020 regular meeting. A copy has also been posted around that approval. Again, if there's any questions, I will wait, but otherwise I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second from Councilor Plunkett.
Okay.
Amy, back to you.
President Garrett.
Yes.
Vice President Traylor.
Yes.
Councilor Burke.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Councilor Choi.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilor Culp.
Yes.
Councilor Melton. I don't think I heard you. Councilor
You're on
Melton.
mute.
Yeah. Craig, you're on
Yeah.
mute.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Councilor Plunkett.
Yes.
Thank
Very
you.
good. The memoranda of the November 2nd, 2020 regular town council meeting is approved by a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Next, we've got requests to speak. Anyone wishing to speak may raise their hand electronically and have their 3 minutes. Amy, I see one raised hand, Mr. Triscari.
Oh, there he
We
is.
could promote him.
Okay, he should be there in just a minute.
Very good.
Yes.
Mr. Triscari, I see you promoted. I think you know the drill, but if you can give your name, address for the record, and I will start timing your 3 minutes after that point.
Thank you. My name is Craig Triscari, 3270 Paddock Road. As of December 2020, Van Trust has still failed to run the 8-inch water line into Saratoga after the December 2018 rezoning passing requiring Van Trust to run the line when they set up their water line. We are at a 2-year anniversary from when this council approved their commitment and 1 year since Van Trust got their water. Van Trust has told this board they have what they need to implement, but they continue to fail this community, as well as this board has failed. The town council a few months ago voted unanimously to give Van Trust millions of dollars in tax giveaways, to include paying nothing the first year after opening. Last council meeting, we had a councilman that disagreed with calling it a tax giveaway, but that is what it is. When you as a council relinquish the town's tax rights to something smaller than the current business rates in Zionsville. To remind the town council on what that stated as revitalization zone for industrial buildings that surrounded homes that are worth 250 to 500 single dwelling homes, it read, whereas the town council finds that the area is an area that has become undesirable, impossible, or normal development occupancy because of lack of development, cessation of growth, deterioration of improvements, and it goes on and on to talk about how horrible that area is, that we have to develop it as a revitalization zone. I have seen how the council members make comments in defense of this multi-billion-dollar company that has damaged our rural water supply, has changed the rural setting for the worse in this area, and has lowered our home values. I do not hear comments on enforcing of the water and tree commitments for Van Trust. I read more about your new dog park than for fixing the water in Zionsville rural community. You and Whitestown have impacted in a negative way in the last 2 to 3 years. It looks like you want to tax us more for Whitestown libraries, which is outside our districts, versus having a conversation that offers this community value after you and Whitestown have devastated our rural community by irresponsible development and rezoning. If you plan to buy a home within Zionsville address, be cautious. The leadership doesn't abide by their comprehensive plans, nor do they care about your property value. Homeowners on 421 or near the highway look to reduce your taxes to Zionsville based on their reckless development and revitalization corporate tax giveaway. The town council team has provided to date zero value added to the greater rural Zionsville community. Thank you.
Josh, you're muted.
Sorry. Thanks, Brian. Amy, any other hands raised? And thank you, Mr. Triscari. We didn't hear that too either.
No, there are no other hands raised.
All right. We will move on. We've added a new section to this meeting for the mayor and administration to give any updates or comments that they may want, so they don't have to raise their hand through the request to speak and have the time that they need to communicate. Amy, I don't believe anyone from administration is joining us today to talk about any business. Is that correct?
No, there won't be anyone today.
Okay. Well, we'll look to future updates. Next, we've got old business, of which there is none. So we'll move on to new business. The first thing is the approval of the 2021 schedule of meetings. Amy, I know this was something you were working on and pretty straightforward in terms of being the first and third Mondays, one evening, one morning meeting with just minor switches based on whether there's a public holiday or if there's school holidays like spring or fall break. Anything you would add to that, or counselors, any questions on the calendar that was proposed?
I have nothing else to really add, except that all of the other meetings that are on the schedule have gone to the appropriate board to review them and make sure that those dates are correct. So.
Very good. Counselors, any questions on that, or take a motion on this?
Make a motion to approve the 2021 schedule.
Second from Vice President Traylor. So second from Counselor Plunkett. Amy, do you want to do a roll call?
President Garrett,
Yes.
Vice President Traylor,
Yes.
Counselor Burke,
Yes.
Counselor Choi,
Yes.
Counselor Culp,
Yes.
Counselor Melton,
Yes.
and Counselor Plunkett.
Yes.
Very good. The 2021 scheduled meetings is approved by a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. And Amy, I'm assuming will also be posted on the town website for folks to have visibility.
Yes, it will. We'll actually post it tomorrow.
Next up, we've got the Zionsville Chamber of Commerce coming to council to make a presentation. Allison, I see you're promoted, so the floor is now yours. Allison, if you're there, you're on mute.
Just kidding. Hi.
Hey, there you go. Hey, there we go. Hi.
Thank you so much, Town Council members. We've had a year that represents exceptionally tough challenges for our business community. No business is untouched this year, with many businesses experiencing financial strain, uncertainty for the future, and challenges that were unforeseen months ago. Still, businesses rise. Many of you know the grit and tenacity of business owners when they're challenged. During this important last month of Q4, I would like to encourage everyone to remember the importance of shopping, dining, and utilizing services locally. It is incumbent upon all of us to be patrons of our local economy, choosing a local option above all others available. Studies show that there's an expectation of brick and mortar shopping to decline, while online shopping is expected to climb between 35 and 40% this year alone. In response, the Zionsville Chamber partnered with Perfit, a ZWorks graduate, to create shopzionsvillechamber.com, a local shopping resource. Look for black shoes or candles on the site, and it will take you to the options of the local participating retailers. Recently, the site has been featured in the IBJ, and yesterday was the lead story on WRTV Evening News. Please know that this site is a work in progress. We are on a chamber budget, not the budget of a multinational corporation. So please be patient as we grow and change. More new businesses are being added weekly. Why is this resource important? We need people, locally, regionally, and beyond, to assist in the maintenance of our business resources. The U.S. Chamber shows that for every $1 spent locally, approximately 67 cents of that dollar stays in the community. The money our businesses bring in fund many of the other aspects of our town. To keep our town vital, our businesses must stay vital. I hope to come back and speak with the council another time on the successes of the chamber, our unprecedented membership growth, our social media reach of nearly 2 million. Tonight, I hope to encourage everyone listening to support our local businesses. Buy gift certificates to your favorite restaurants. Buy a business service package from a life coach or HR company as a gift to a budding or existing small business owner. Shop at your level of comfort from our Zionsville small business community, either in person or online. Find a way to support a local business. And if you need ideas, call the Zionsville Chamber. We will help. Thank you for your time. We know that the next few weeks may be critical to sustaining our businesses through some of the most tumultuous weeks in the new year. We ask that everyone play a part in choosing to support Zionsville businesses today and every day.
Well said, Allison. Councilors, any questions or comments on that?
I just want to say, Allison, I certainly appreciate everything you're doing for all businesses in Zionsville, and we, my wife and I enjoy, going to the events and seeing the folks in the village and seeing them all around town, and I think you're doing a phenomenal job.
Thank you so much. We certainly appreciate the support of the Plunketts and all of the town council.
Very good. Thanks so much, Allison. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Allison.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Hoosiers for Renewables, a presentation with Steve Eberly, the Executive Director. Steve, I see you are on there, on mute, but the floor is yours when you're ready.
Can you hear me now?
We can, Steve.
Very good. Well, y'all are very gracious to grant me the opportunity to speak this evening. I've known folks in Boone County for years upon years, and tonight I wanted to speak a lot about an organization that I started about a year ago. Our focus is primarily on utility scale solar projects. We do talk with everyone in the renewables community, including wind, but solar right now is the one everybody wants to talk with the most. Just a quick conversation here about my background. My grandkids are 6 generations on a little 200-acre farm about an hour north of you all, Pine Village, Indiana, which is just west of Purdue there. Spent 34 years there on the management side. Pretty much ran all the food supply and all the contracting. We actually introduced Traders Point yogurt product into the university about the first year they were in operation over there. So we had a lot of fun with that. Concurrent to that, I also spent 30 years in county government. Most recent past was 12 years as county commissioner. Got to know a couple of your folks down there that way. The reason we're out, and right now I'm in a formal company of 2 people, myself and Mrs. Connie Neininger. Connie retired out of the Indiana State Department of Ag, but also worked economic development and worked with renewables in her role there in White County. I started working with renewables projects in 2008. We were, there was ethanol, Poet Ethanol had an interest in the county, as did wind energy. In fact, as we speak, we're bringing up a 400 megawatt wind project for Warren County, which is a NextEra Energy project, which happens to be the project that is currently being discussed there in Boone. Are you all aware of the notion that there's a project over in the Waugh area along 421?
I'm not sure, Steve, if you want to go ahead and give your presentation, because we've got a long agenda today.
I'll certainly do her. Can someone help me get my slides up here? I would appreciate that.
Well,
do
you see the screen share button? We do live tech support here.
I'm looking. There we go.
Should be
All
right
right.
at the bottom of your screen.
Okay, and that looks. Let's see if this works. What can you see a screen at this point? Presentation?
Yes.
Got it.
Very good. And I will go through these fairly quickly once I figure out how to get to the next slide. I apologize. I keep one. Okay, here we go. Okay, did that bring up an additional slide?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
It should say Hoosiers for Renewables to discuss our mission. Renewable energy is becoming more and more of a mix in the state. We now currently have about a 7% share of wind and solar operating in Indiana. Many and most of the utility companies in the state are opting for moving away from coal generation to primarily natural gas generation, but we feel there's definitely a need to expand more of the renewable sector. And it has grown exponentially over the last 18 months in terms of projects being proposed. I did mention already myself and Connie. 4 points that we can discuss. Our primary role is to educate at the grassroots level, to talk to the public. COVID has severely hamstrung us in that regard, but it is homegrown energy. These projects are normally proximate to substation related hardware in the individual counties. It is low cost. We have a slide to demonstrate a study by Ball State University showing where costs have gone on this product. Local benefits. And in Warren County specifically, we were losing millions of dollars in assessed valuation because of the decline in ag valuation. And so projects such as the wind project that we adopted brought forth many millions of dollars in tax revenue and increased assessed value. Jobs, solar doesn't create a lot of local employment. You're going to see employment during the construction phase of probably 200 to 300 individuals. And there will be heavy local spend. We're seeing this everywhere. As I mentioned, the tax revenue shared in school over there, and this is a point I made for the council and the commissioners as well. but the benefits to Marion Township will be pretty exponential. And as the progress progresses, I'm sure the developer will be willing to fund those projections on behalf of the county so you can see what's happening. Talked about the declining costs, and back when we were first discussing renewables back in the 08-09 era, this chart shows you pretty graphically where the costs were on wind, solar, coal, gas. And today, a lot of the reason that the utility companies are wanting a greater mix of renewables has to do with those lower costs. Demonstrates currently we have 33 counties in the state, probably way busier than I ever intended to be, but we have 33 counties in the state that are currently dealing with some form of renewable, primarily solar. There's a map that'll just show you, and again, the majority of it is solar development. IMPA has been very active in community development solar. This is a slide from 19. I borrowed it from somebody else, but it demonstrates that in addition to the utility demand for this kind of energy, major corporations are looking that way as well, y'all. Currently, we have about 20,000 Indiana residents signed up to support us via website. Got about 8,000 on Facebook, where we're not trying to debate with people about Facebookology. We're simply trying to find factual information and answer questions for people so they can understand more about these developments. Brickyard specifically, and I apologize, this is a really small slide, but NextEra Energy, again, they're proposing a 200 megawatt project over near the community of Waugh. Capital investment will be about $200 million. And I feel that this company would be a good neighbor. NextEra is Florida Power and Light. NextEra Renewable Energy is a subset of that corporation. You got the luxury of having a pretty competent player there proposing project in Boone at this time. That pretty much, let me go back through here a couple in the interest of time. I'm going to go forward. Warren County, assessed valuation in Warren County, we'd lost about $60 billion over the last 5 years. You all have the luxury of the corridor there with Lebanon, Whitestown. So specifically to where you all sit right now, you're doing okay. Marion Township up there has been pretty static. And so again, as I mentioned before, a project like this could really be beneficial. Beyond that, I simply would offer that any other questions you all might have, any questions the public might have, please get a hold of me. I'm awful easy to find. I run this operation out of my home here on the farm. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Everly. Appreciate you coming out here tonight.
You bet. All right.
Any questions, counselors? All right. Joe, if you want to text Mr. Everly, so stop presentation. Thank you. Or Amy, if you did that, thank you. Next, we've got a County Road 300 South Corridor Study Report. Lance, are you presenting on this? Mr. Lance or John Barry from Beam Longest and Neff? Amy, do you see? Oh, there's Lance. Amy, you're on mute. Lance, you're on mute.
All right.
Now you're, there you go.
Yeah, well, I'll introduce this. We'll have John Barry with Beam Longest and Neff who will give the overall presentation just by way of a very brief history. In 2017, Boone County Highway identified a deficient bridge on County Road 300 that needs to be scheduled for replacement. Obviously, with bridges having a 75+ year design life, you want to make sure that the bridge you build today suits all needs in the future. So it became important to look at that corridor, see what it might be when it grows up. In 2018, the town of Zionsville and Boone County jointly applied for funding through the Indianapolis Metropolitan Planning Organization and received a planning grant to study this corridor. And between the county commissioners and town staff, Beam Longus and Neff was selected as the consultant to review this corridor and come up with potential impacts, potential alignments, and basically a red flag type survey. So with that, I will turn things over to Mr. Beery and let him take the reins.
Thank you, Lance. Good evening, council. Good evening, Amy. Can everyone hear me okay?
Got you, John.
Good, thanks. We've been wanting to do this for quite a while. Let me share my screen. I have a presentation. Can you all see that?
Not yet.
No, not yet.
About that.
Starting. Yep, there you go.
So back in just a little over a year ago, we entered into an agreement with the MPO to do a joint study with Boone County in the town of Zionsville, as well as the MPO, to study construction costs for a potential extension and widening of County Road 300 South between the County Line Road 1200 East through US 21 all the way to the approximately Whitestown town limits just west of 800 East.
Hey, John, can you go into like a presentation mode that puts this current slide at full? I think it's probably one of your buttons there along the bottom. So right now we're seeing current slide, next slide, notes, and it's hard to see that there's not a lot of room for the slide itself.
I'll get this figured out. Sorry about that.
It's the,
No problem.
it's the one at the bottom that looks like a TV.
Yeah, that one.
Is that what normally works? But no, it's not.
Interesting. All right, well, we can make do. Don't worry about it, John. It's just something easy to do.
That better?
Nope, that's worse. He's doing closed captioning now. I would unclick that button. Unclick the closed caption.
Let me end it.
Oh, there we go. That's actually better. That's actually better if you put it in. Yeah, that's actually
okay, good.
Much bigger.
I actually had it a lot bigger and I can't figure out. Better?
There we go. Yeah.
All right, good.
Now we're cooking.
All right. Sorry. So we entered into agreement with the MPO, Boone County, and Town of Zionsville to investigate construction costs for the widening of County Road 300 South from 1200 East, County Road 1200 East, which is the East County Line Road, through County Road or through US 421 west of the Zionsville town limits. The project was broken up into 4 segments. I'll explain why later. But essentially, we had segments between 3/4 of a mile to 1/4 mile long. Segment 1 was essentially from 800 East to 875 East. Segment 2 was from 875 East to 975 East. Segment 3, 975 East to 421, and US 421 to County Road 1200 East was the 4th segment. We have each broken up by costs and then intersection costs and alternatives as well. We actually partnered with A&F Engineering, who is a traffic consulting and engineering company that we sometimes partner with, even though we offer those services as well. Sometimes breaking a project up in team form kind of facilitates getting it done a little bit quicker. As I said, this was a partnership between Town of Zionsville, Boone County, and the MPO. The project overview and purpose describe the project limits, essentially County Road 800 East to 1200 East. The study was funded primarily through grant from the Indianapolis Metropolitan Planning Organization with roughly a 20% match, split 10% each by the Town of Zionsville and Boone County. The purpose was to evaluate the preliminary scope, feasibility, and construction costs for the project. It was also to create a preliminary design and layout in order to evaluate layout, feasibility, impacts, and costs. Drawings and exhibits were prepared, and the concept were based on adopted county, town, and MPO standards and policies, such as typical details in the town thoroughfare plan, the county's thoroughfare plan, and typical streets for MPO standards and MPO policies. Constraints along the project corridor include the various water features. Jackson Run crosses 2 or 3 times west of Eagle Creek. Eagle Creek is also a constraint. And there are also neighborhoods and other physical concerns, such as the cemetery at 975 East, that also present some interesting challenges. Property impacts are important and as well to consider, as well as the overall traffic benefits of cost versus what's being provided. We did preliminary alignments, drafts, and alternatives of corridors and intersection layouts, and had a public meeting just a little bit over a year ago in Town Hall. Notice was placed on social media and 2 publications. Direct mailings were sent to approximately 150 addresses along the corridor, not just residents, but also property owners along the corridor. Some property owners live remotely or not actually on the parcel. So we queried the address database, property owners, GIS, Boone County, sent out those notices. We had approximately 100 to 125 people in attendance. I've been doing public meetings for well over 20 to 25 years. I've never had a public meeting that was so well attended when you look at percentage of people who attended versus the number of addresses that you did direct mailing to for the notice of the meeting. So I would consider it to be very well attended. Newspaper was there as well. We discussed preliminary alignments and intersection alternatives and presented those not only in overhead and presentation format. We also had large foam board copies of each one of the alignments and intersection alignments. So we had breakout sessions that were actually to the right of where everyone was sitting in the picture, and people were able to fill out comment cards as well as write down comments, physical comments with Sharpie marker on our poster boards. We received in all 24 direct comment cards and approximately 20 emails after the meeting. All have been provided to city and town staff to date. There was some overlap between emails and comment cards, but I would say probably about 40 in all, 40 comments, unique individual comments in all were received. Copies of those will be provided with a final report. Talk a little bit briefly, and we'll try to get you out of here quickly. The roadway design designations and classifications. When looking at the corridor, we're dealing with a total of 4 jurisdictions. The city, the town, the county, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, and Indiana Department of Transportation, which has jurisdiction over US 421. The reason the MPO comes into play, investigative or analysis of potential federal funding to procure federal funding for maybe intersections or any source of or any portion of the project were decided to be kept on the table. So the MPO and other information keeping federal eligibility was maintained through the process in the event that federal applications were derived from any of the construction costs or any of the project phasing that was derived as a part of the overall study. Most importantly, I think of all, for any type of federal funding or state funding or any type of match participation, County Road 300 South is listed as a principal arterial or major collector and a rural collector in different locations along the corridor. This designation is maintained by INDOT, by the Indianapolis Metropolitan Planning organization as you're within the urbanized boundary of the Indianapolis MPO. Those designations actually maintain eligibility for federal funding for any type of improvements for added capacity along the roadway. So that those designations, while they may not seem important or largely bureaucratic, they do have an impact on eligibility for any type of outsourced funding from the state that you could potentially receive for any number of phases or breakouts of the improvements that we're talking about here. And I'll talk about some of the other affected projects toward the end of the presentation that do involve that are outside these project limits that have involved federal funding. County Road 300 South, further, Boone County has it designated on its thoroughfare plan in several different locations. There's a mini corridor plan between Whitestown and US 421 Michigan Road, as well as it's an intended link to the Ronald Reagan Parkway on the west side of Boone County. And it's also a link to the corridor for 146th Street that runs from County Road 1200 East out to I-69 through Hamilton County. So it is designated, and it's shown in the regional context map in the handout, the presentation, as connecting to those east-west and north-south corridors in each adjacent county. The town of Zionsville also has it designated as a primary arterial, as a thoroughfare, and referenced in other sections of the Zionsville's transportation plan. So it is a recognized corridor in three rather significant documents as being an important portion of your transportation network, not only locally, but countywide and regionally. Goals and preliminary design parameters for the project were fairly well defined in existing documentation. The 146th Street mini plan in both the town and county thoroughfare plans are very important, and they do set some design requirements for the roadway, number of lanes, curb and sidewalk, trails, and things like that that were included in the draft cross sections of the roadway. The MPO set a goal as having a complete street policy, which means ADA accessible trails and means for bicycle and pedestrian activities. Context sensitive is very important. Green space, any type of other amenities that add attractiveness to the corridor. Balance needs of the traffic, balance, and also important, we're balancing the needs of traffic flow with land use and planning needs of adjacent neighborhoods. Many of these goals are either in the county thoroughfare plan or the town's comp plan. Preliminary cross sections for the roadway, and here's a good picture. Can you all see my pointer?
We can, John.
Okay. The county's thoroughfare plan called for trails along both sides of 146th Street, as well as the MPO's complete street policy, preferring interconnected neighborhoods along with the roadway to serve as an alternative means of travel. The minimum standards defined in town standards, as well as a Boone County thoroughfare plan, required 12-foot travel lanes, 2 lanes in each direction for a total of 4 lanes, with a minimum 12-foot median, multi-use trails on both sides, and other standards to consider: street trees in appropriate areas, green spaces to plant trees, decorative street lights, decorative banners and signage, and additional pedestrian facilities as needed. Typical cross sections developed, and we show both alternatives that were used as a part of the corridor study to match the thoroughfare plan. You see an 18-foot wide median with curbs on either side, two 12-foot travel lanes in either direction. The 13-foot travel lane in the middle just simply is additional buffer between the green space and a vehicle traveling in either direction as a buffer, and then 12-foot paths on either side. the 18-foot median at intersections if a traffic signal alternatives were considered for each of the intersection options. The median would fall off into a dual left-hand turn lane at intersections to provide for left-hand turn storage, left-hand turn capability to manage congestion. Physical constraints along the corridor, primarily cemetery, was a big issue, or is a big issue. Received a couple of phone calls from cemetery staff board and administrators kind of talking about the project and how we were proposing to address those challenges. As you see in the picture, there are grade issues. The cemetery does sit well above the existing edge of pavement, which is the property line for the cemetery itself. Waterways are of concern, as well as waterway crossings, adjacent waterways and drainage. Utilities are also a concern. Both sides of the existing right-of-way contain either aerial or below ground utilities that would have to be accommodated and relocated and accommodated and replaced in kind if the roadway were widened. And there are also several private property issues, decorative gates, fences, horse fences, and other contextual issues that would need to be addressed or that are addressed in the study. We talked mostly about a lot of these issues, but I'll hit them a little bit in detail. Environmental matters and other issues for consideration. The first picture on the top does illustrate the great difference between the existing cemetery and the existing edge of pavement, which is the property line for the cemetery. We stretched out a tape measure. The outside of the nearest headstone with proximity to the roadway is about 7.5 feet. So very close. Impacts are a concern. Private property concerns include existing ponds, septic tanks, and septic issues, as well as, I believe, fences, gates, and the horse fences that we had previously talked about. Creek, streams, and waterways, 2 substantial creeks and creek crossings, 2 substantial creeks with a total of 4 existing crossings within the corridor west of US 421 would need to be addressed. The bridge across Eagle Creek, as well as 2 crossings of Jackson Run and a 3rd crossing of an unnamed tributary that runs underneath between Eagle Creek and South Michigan Road that runs actually southward and ends up running through outletting to Eagle Creek. All have defined bed and bank, so strong environmental permits would be required for either new crossings and drainage work that would touch into those or connect to those natural waterways. Just a quick map that shows wetlands and environmentally sensitive areas that that are within the project area. This shows an example between 421 east to County Road 1200 east. There are wetlands in the existing culvert crossing near County Road 1200 east that would have to be addressed, as well as other pipe crossings east of 421 that would also have to be addressed and widened. East of 421, all of the waterway crossings underneath the road were determined to be hydraulically sufficient and have capacity to be able to continue to serve what they need to serve without enlarging the cross-sectional areas, although some of the boxes would probably need to be extended to accommodate roadway widening. So we would expect some wetland impacts to occur in the culvert crossing just west of the county line road. Bridges and culvert crossings, we did define 3 unsuitable culvert crossings within the project area. Pretty much just old culverts you can see there. I believe this is the smashed culverts, cross pipes underneath 300 South that are just west of County Road, that are just west of US 421. This crossing under Jackson Run is near County Road 875. So all of those crossings would need to be increased in size to more standard sizes. Although a lot of the crossing sizes would just bump up a little bit, they would all need to be replaced as a part of the road project. Right-of-way assumptions and considerations. We did establish preliminary grades with the roadway using topo to the nearest 5-foot interval to try to estimate right-of-way constraints where the road would actually kind of tie in to existing properties on the north side and south side of the roadway. Right-of-way limits vary in the drawings based on construction limits and topography. We tried to limit the amount of right-of-way shown based on reasonable estimates of the topography out in the field that we were able to obtain through GIS records. And also, we tried to reduce the amount of right-of-way by adjusting grades due to proximity to existing structures to minimize full takes and significant impacts to existing homes, as well as the cemetery. Right-of-way was determined conservatively. It's expected that the final width would vary based on survey and design prior to construction. Right-of-way constraints in the cemetery. As you can see in the picture, we would hold the existing north edge of pavement along the cemetery and deflect the alignment of the roadway. This particular picture shows a signal option at the intersection of County Road 975 East. Most intersections at the request of the county and other stakeholders, we showed intersection improvements as being a signal option or a roundabout option, which we'll show some of those later in the presentation. I believe the town does have some of those options too available. And at the end of the presentation, if you'd like to email me or if you'd like me to send some of those options via PDF, I can readily do that. And I might just send them to Amy regardless of whether anybody wants them. So she'll have them and have them at your discretion or availability. And you can see as a picture of the right-of-way constraints in the cemetery. We hold that line in grade. I believe in the estimate I know there's a wall in there to protect cemetery and graves from relocation, but we also have staggered right-of-way in here. This orange line shows where the roadway and embankment for the roadway would tie in to existing property. So right-of-way kind of functions as two purposes. It's the limit of construction limits as well as limit of proposed public property once the project's over. You can kind of see how on this picture here, just east of Pleasant View Road, where the topography is tying in front of this existing home to limit impacts to the existing tree line in front of the house. Estimates for right-of-way impacts. This is just a table showing permanent right-of-way parcels per segment. Each segment defined by roadway intersections. Temporary parcels mean permanent right-of-way would be purchased permanently and owned by the local public agency doing the purchase in charge of the project, either the town or the county. Those are the total number of parcels that we need to be purchased to construct the improvements. Temporary right-of-way is a temporary purchase where the landowner is compensated to either regrade a driveway or tie the driveway into existing grade off right-of-way to kind of blend the new project in with the existing project. It's simply just a little area of ground that doesn't need to be purchased permanently, but kind of blends the new project in with the existing property line. Other estimates for right-of-way impacts, cost to cure. We do have right-of-way cost estimates, replacement in kind for decorative fence, driveway entry and features such as driveway gates, septic impacts. There are several properties west of 975 that have septic tanks in the front yard that have identified that will be impact. Setback damages for zoning damages. There are typical setback requirements for properties based on zoning and purchase and transfer. So when a property right away is purchased within the zoning setback that's currently approved for the property, a property owner is typically paid damages on that increase or decrease in setback that they have to the existing roadway. These will all be factored into right-of-way costs for purchase prior to construction. Just a breakdown of costs for each individual segment. We have costs broken out, options and segment. It's the tables presented option A or B, segment 1A. The segments with either A or B behind them are the intersection options. And the reason we figured costs this way, the county requested us to break out intersection costs in the event that they would like to break out individual projects and seek individual funding. You'll see each one of the individual intersection projects is slightly less than the segment costs on either side of the intersection. So tackling the project intersections first is a little bit better way to tackle a project financially than jumping all in or attacking segments initially, because intersections are typically where backups are experienced. So each one of the options listed, option A and B, all the options listed are broken out by individual costs, with the segments 1A and 1B being roundabouts or costs for signals. You see the total construction cost for the corridor stands at about $50 million for that 4-mile segment, a 5-mile segment. What I'd like to point out is the cost for, segment 4. The cost is about $10.1 million for the cost to reconstruct US 421 to County Road 1200 East. We're going to talk about that here in the upcoming slides for a cost comparison to present ongoing projects. Present day estimate, $35 million, which is about $2.8 million a lane mile. Design, and to kind of show that, Zionsville North-South Connector, which was recently bid and under construction, is about $1.8 million per lane mile. The cost difference between the present day estimate that we have for County Road 300 South and Zionsville's North-South Connector, we are assuming curb and gutter. So the big cost difference in lane miles between the North-South Connector and the County Road 300 South estimate is essentially the difference between curb and gutter and the enclosed storm sewer system that we're proposing for County Road 300 South. So our estimates are relatively in line with the cost per lane mile that you've seen with the North-South Connector project. Also, the County Road, Hamilton County's 146th Street project east of County Road 1200 East, which is going to tie in right here from Hamilton County. That was awarded about a year ago this time, and it's presently under construction. The cost of that project was similar in size to your 421 to County Road 1200 East project. That cost is about $11.2 million. So estimated costs we have for the project are in line with existing ongoing construction projects. Again, key elements and concerns with the project: traffic safety. There is a substantial crash history at 975, which is Pleasant View Road and County Road 300 South. I believe that's in the top 4 crash locations in the county for the last 5 years. So there is a high crash rate at that intersection, as well as US 421 in the intersection of County Road 300 South. Right-of-way impacts, I'm not going to discount that at all. Right-of-way impacts are substantial, especially with lot frontage and the impacts to the handful of septic tanks west of County Road 975 East. Drainage, wetlands, and floodplain, there will be significant impacts to those, but those permits will be rather extensive. And I believe the upsizing of the culverts and the bridge to Eagle Creek would lessen those impacts, the noticeable impacts that anybody could see upstream because of the the structures that will be enlarged to be able to pass events that they can't pass now. Future considerations that were taken into account with the project. 146th Street in Hamilton County, like I said, their last phase was bid right about a year ago this time, and it has been under construction since we had our public meeting last October. It is a 4-lane cross section with a median, similar to what's been proposed for the alternatives that were developed with this study. Boone County Bridge 0600192 has received partial federal funding. That bridge is just east of County Road 800 South over Jackson Run. It is in design right now. The design has started since we had the public meeting with Boone County last February. It is scheduled to for construction in the second half of 2023. I believe they're developing plans right now, and they will be acquiring right-of-way to match what we had kind of proposed for this project. Other phases for the project are funding dependent and cost dependent. They're also permitting dependent, whether or not the environmental permits can be procured for doing the projects, which we are relatively confident that those permits can be obtained. It's just we would need to mitigate any wetland or stream impacts as a part of the design that the construction would have on existing wetlands and streams. Projects would most likely be phased by section and intersection to create kind of a cafeteria effect, affordability, maybe potentially targeting intersections. And this project was developed to look at preliminary options and potential impacts. So, I mean, right now, other than a look forward and a look ahead, other than County Road Bridge 060092, there is no funding plan or construction plan in place to do any of the improvements that that we've investigated here. Considerations and recommendations. Level of accuracy and cost savings can be developed and finalized as design progresses. We believe the preliminary design is conservative. You kind of want to start very conservatively and be aggressive in design with cost savings once survey and designs initiated on any project. Estimates are provided by segment and intersections and bridges, so they can be managed over a period of time, and the project can be developed over a period of time. I was involved during my time with the city of Noblesville, involved with the development of the phases, the 5-mile phases of 146th Street from State Road 37 to I-69. Project development for that phase took more than 20 years. And from the time it was conceived in the mid 1990s up until we finished construction in the early 2010s. The development of that corridor is still ongoing, and Hamilton County continues work on extending and improving that corridor west of Spring Mill to this day. While roundabouts do require more right-of-way, the cost difference between the signal and roundabout estimates is manageable when considering long-term operational costs between a traffic signal and roundabouts. Roundabouts do typically outperform signals over their life cycle because they do reduce crash severity. And I would like to point out, just because we did a signal alternative there, I mean, whichever anyone would choose to do in the future, crash severity isn't expected to be reduced by a traffic signal there because sight distance is restricted by the cemetery for southbound traffic coming into the intersection. So a roundabout essentially at that intersection would outperform a traffic signal, although a signal would be less expensive over their individual life cycles. So there's a decision to be made there in the future, whether or not a signal is chosen versus a roundabout. Intersections and bridge projects are typically lower initial investments that can be initiated to improve the corridor in the early sections of the lifetime of the project. So you do get bang for your buck with bridge construction and intersection construction early on if you tackle those projects early in the time frame of the overall program life of a project. With that kind of rounded out, if anybody has any questions, I'm open or free to any questions. You can also send me emails as well. So with that, any questions, we can go ahead and answer those. We did this presentation to Boone County in the middle of February with the intent of doing it for the town of Zionsville right after that. We really prefer in-person presentations with a project like this. It's easier to, engage the public as well as council questions, and with the phone board visuals and things like that. But unfortunately, time hit us with COVID, and within 2 weeks of the county's presentation, we were kind of halted with that. So we apologize for that delay. But with that, any questions? Entertain those.
No problem, John. I do like your lamp. Is that a major award?
That is. That was a Christmas present a few years ago.
Very informative. Thank you. Councilors, any questions on the information that John presented here?
Just briefly, what are next steps?
Next steps, we're going to finish up we've got the report started, but we want to finish up the estimates and kind of put that report together and submit it officially. Next steps would be to take the information, disseminate it, have it on your radar. One of the benefits of this plan is it kind of puts it on the radar. We didn't take a whole lot of liberties with any of the design. We tried to hold true with your existing plans, thoroughfare plans, your comp plans, to try to make create a manageable corridor. So we'll be finishing up the study in the next 30 to 45 days, and then submitting that in detail for you all to review, and to have and incorporate as a future document. I will say, from an owner's perspective, one of the things that needs to be considered from all aspects, even with Boone County, is when you take a look at the plan and the numbers, how you go about tackling and phasing what's provided in the plan and the study itself.
Forever. I was planning on doing.
Very good.
Joe, you probably need to mute yourself.
I did.
All right. Thanks, John. Appreciate the
Thank
information. Thanks, Lance.
And like I said, you have my email address. Feel free to forward us any emails or any questions.
Certainly appreciate that. Okay.
Thanks. Enjoyed it.
Thank you. Next up, we've got a consideration of an ordinance to amend the town of Zionsville zoning ordinance. This is petition number 2020-47-Z, Appaloosa Crossing outlets I and J. This is ordinance number 2020-18. Mr. DeLong, I believe the floor is yours to discuss this.
Thank you. Good evening. Happy to introduce this matter. This comes to you from the Plan Commission as a favorable recommendation, unanimous, for the rezoning of two specific outlots in Appaloosa Crossing. You certainly remember some action that you took a few months back on a specific portion of one of these outlots. Some lot line has moved a bit, and this action looks to clean up that previous decision by the town council. No fault of the town council. The lot line did see some adjustment. And the second matter here is another rezoning to move things around and clean things up altogether. The Plan Commission prepared two certifications for you for your consideration, simply to try to pull apart this matter as it is two legal descriptions, two lots, two different classifications. Happy to take any specific questions you may have, and I do believe Matt Price is in attendance this evening to speak to the matter as well.
Wayne, real quick, you talk about it being two lots, but it's only one vote in front of us tonight, correct?
Correct. We did pull this together as one ordinance, but just for sake of tracking the two pieces of property, the Plan Commission chose to prepare two different documents for your consideration.
Very good. And I see Mr. Price has been promoted as well. Councilors, any questions for Wayne or for Mr. Price? All right. Well, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve this ordinance.
Second.
Second from Councilor Plunkett. Amy, do you want to do your thing?
Yes. President Garrett,
Yes.
Vice President Trailer,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Choi,
Yes.
Councilor Culp,
Yes.
Councilor Melton,
Yes.
and Councilor Plunkett.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ordinance number 2020-18 is adopted with a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Next up is a consideration of the 2021 salary ordinance for the town of Zionsville. This is a first reading. This is ordinance number 2020-19. Ms. Savard, I believe this is you're assigned to this whether you like it or not. You can, we see you're promoted. If you're on mute, if there's any update or summary you want to give the council before we discuss.
I believe Joe Keel is presenting the salary ordinance.
Oh, all right, I had you on there. Sorry about that, Tammy.
Find her.
Amy, do you want to?
Yes.
You can probably leave Tammy promoted because I think she's got the next one, but if Joe wants to talk about it, that's fine as well.
I'm not seeing Joe.
I don't see her either. Unless, Joe, if you're out there, one of the random ones we can't see a name, raise your hand. Tammy, are you comfortable presenting this? Sorry about that.
Yes. Yeah, the salary ordinance is an annual procedure that is required by the State Board of Accounts. This sets the maximum salaries for the employees. It is not necessarily what the employees are making. So this sets the maximum base salary. And as you can see in some of the departments, there are additional stipends that go if an employee meets that criteria. In the ordinance, you'll see that there are changes to job titles and other changes, and those are all detailed out for you. And we can answer any questions that you have.
Also, any questions, Jim?
I have a question. Just to be clear, these numbers, for example, just the first one that's up here is just the administration. So the mayor, deputy mayor, executive administrative assistant, those are consistent with the budget that we passed as well, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. So basically, the salary ordinance took into account what was passed last year, and then through the budget process, 1% adjustment merit was included, and so that 1% is adjusted to the schedule.
Perfect.
And those, yes, thank you.
Makes sense. Councilors, any other questions? And this is a first reading, so this will be on our next meeting as well. Any motions on this one?
I'll make a motion to introduce on first reading.
Second from Vice President Trailer, second from Councilor Burke. Amy, when you're ready.
President Garrett,
Yes.
Vice President Trailer,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Choi,
Yes.
Councilor Culp,
Yes.
Councilor Melton,
Yes.
and Councilor Plunkett.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ordinance number 2020-19 is introduced with a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Item G is a consideration of an ordinance establishing the budget for non-DLGF funds. This is also a first reading. This is ordinance 2020-20. Tammy, I believe you're presenting on this one.
Yes, that's correct. So tonight is the introduction for the non-DLGF funds, and all that means is that these are the non-property tax supported funds that were not adopted in October. So I'll pull up the exhibits and then we can go through those quickly and then look at some of the stories, which was built using our new transparency tool that we are just starting the implementation for. And then I'll open it up for questions. And just a side note, the DLGF did approve the budget and the tax rate will be dropping slightly. So more information to come when those are the final certification. And I'm going to share my screen here. And I will try to make this quick. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
We got it, team.
Okay, perfect. So just a simple ordinance saying that you are going to adopt the appropriations for these non-DLGF funds, and just in the interest of transparency. And as you know, we're going to be tracking this in the transparency tool in 2021. So as you can see, we've estimated the revenues for these funds, and you'll notice that the council is the appropriating body for the dollars in the parks funds as well as the RDC, although they make the decisions on the day-to-day claims and things like that. So included in the golf course budget, for example, are capital costs that have already been approved by the parks board. And you can see that some of these are capital funds and some of these are operating funds, and you're happy to reach out to me and I will answer questions on it. So after the revenues are the estimated expenses, and so they're laid out by fund and by the line item. This is what you'll see when we have the transparency portal, and you'll be able to see a budget versus actual on these line items. And then here is the part that I enjoy, which is the story around the numbers. And so an example would be the Law Enforcement Continuing Education Fund. If you look at just the numbers and you see the revenues and you see $3,000 coming in and $60,000 going out, then you might be like, I'm not going to approve that. But when you look at the historical information about the actual cash balances and the amount used, then it tells you a little bit different story. So this is just saying that this is giving the police department the flexibility in order to respond to anything that comes up as far as training needs, because as you can see up at the top, it tells you what that fund is used for and also what the sources of revenue are for that fund. And then at the bottom, you can see little descriptions that tell you more about that particular graph. Public Works road impact fee. So this is the other one in reverse. You can see the cash balance has been growing in this fund. And this is the one that was referred to as that we are saving for building a roundabout. And we do have one expense in 2021, but you'll notice that the revenue is higher than the expense for that particular fund. And then in 2022 is when we anticipate doing the construction. And that would be contingent upon the land costs being met with an additional appropriation in the MBH fund in 2021. And that was one of the ones that was pulled out of the budget. And then here's an operating example that shows the golf course, and you can see the fluctuation when there are capital expenses in the fund, but it is meant to pay for the personnel as well as the maintenance of the course and other amenities at the golf course. And then we also have the wastewater fund. And so there are two funds. One is the availability fee. And again, this one will fluctuate based on the needs of the capital expenses. And then you can see that the revenues coming in are more than the expenses with a description underneath there. And then the wastewater operating. Again, some of the wastewater operating is used for capital, and that's why you'll see that fluctuation there for some of the bond projects. And then you'll see the estimated revenues and the estimated expenses. So does anyone have any questions on this ordinance? This is first reading. We will bring it before you again on the 21st.
Yeah, I mean, I love the stories. I know you promised that when we talked about this, so thank you. That's very easy to see. I guess one thing it points out, or thinking about the law enforcement fund, it looks like for a long time it's had a pretty big cash balance, and this year it's got a big expense of 60 grand and just a little bit of revenue.
That is just a placeholder for, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt it, but that's just a placeholder for training.
Got
And
it.
so
I'm sorry.
any
You
of the
mentioned it earlier,
equipment-
but I don't think I made the connection, so thank you.
Yes.
Got it. Councilors, any other questions? All right, silence. I will go ahead and make a motion to approve then.
I'll second.
Just a second by Councilor Melton. Amy, at your pleasure.
Okay. President Garrett,
Yes.
Vice President Trailer,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Choi,
Yes.
Councilor Culp,
Yes.
Councilor Melton,
Yes.
Councilor Plunkett.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very good. Ordinance number 2020-20 is introduced on first reading with a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Next, we have a consideration of an additional appropriation resolution regarding engineering costs and COVID-related expenses. This is a public hearing, which I will open here shortly. This is resolution 2020-16. Tammy, you got a lot of things tonight.
I do have a lot, and you're going to hear from me next meeting
I
as
know.
well. Council President, members of the council, the additional appropriation ordinance is for the appropriation of building engineering costs as well as the COVID-related expenses. As discussed during the budget presentations in September and October, the town is a pass-through for the engineering costs. So we have been paying the engineering costs and then billing the developers and then collecting that revenue. So this isn't money that is just going out the door. We have been collecting it, but due to the timing of the invoices going out and the money coming in, doing an additional appropriation is the cleanest way to handle this. So in 2021, we had it in the budget that you approved. And so we will hopefully not have to go through this process at the end of the year next year, like we had been doing in the past. And so the additional appropriation part of that is for the pass-through amount. And then the other part is for COVID-related expenses. As you know, the town has been submitting for the CARES Act dollars. And as you'll hear in the next item on the agenda, the accounting for the CARES Act funding has changed several times. So this will allow us the ability to adapt to the rules that the state has given to us, and so that we can make sure that everything is in the right spot.
Councilors, any questions for Tammy on this one? And while you think about that, actually, and while I'm thinking about that, as I mentioned earlier, this is a public hearing, and I do have proof of publication, which I will share here right now. You should be seeing the proof of publication. With that, I will open the public hearing. If there's any member of the public that would like to comment on this matter, and just this matter, please raise your hand. Amy, I'm not seeing anyone. Do you?
No, I don't see anyone.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close this public hearing. Councilors, I feel I'll leave it back to you if you've got any questions for Tammy.
Yeah, I just had a question about, obviously this comes from the 101 general fund, and it's just listed as services and charges, and you went through that. In the future, if we have to do this again with the transparency portal and everything that you're talking about, will all that be outlined so we know exactly what it is as opposed to just general services and charges?
Yes, it will get posted on the budget side in the transparency portal with the specific line items when that is approved by the DLGF. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Questions or motion from anyone? All right, well, I'll make a motion to approve. I hate to hog all the motions, but I'm willing to do it to move things along.
I will second.
Got a second from Councilor Culp. Amy?
President Garrett,
Yes.
Vice President Trailer,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Choi,
Yes.
Councilor Culp,
Yes.
Councilor Melton,
Yes.
and Councilor Plunkett.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Resolution 2020-16 passes with a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Next, this is actually our last new agenda item. This is a consideration of a resolution to provide for reimbursement of public health and public safety payroll costs with CARES Act funding. This is resolution 2020-17. Tammy, back to you.
Yes. So this resolution provides the town the ability to transfer the CARES dollars to the general fund per the State Board of Accounts guidelines. So as I mentioned before, the rules have changed during the process. So passing this resolution gives us that option in order to account for the spend properly. We had a different strategy for using the CARES Act dollars, and due to the different rule changes, they changed that. So we have some of the money directly going against the CARES Act grant, and then some of it has to move into the general fund per the State Board of Account guidelines. So passing this resolution is necessary in order for us to do the back end accounting.
Questions for Tammy on that piece of this? Any motions?
Move to approve resolution 2020-17.
Jason, second.
Jason said it longer, so I'll give the first to Councilor Plunkett, the second to Councilor Burke.
He's always showing off.
President Garrett,
Yes.
Vice President Trailer,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Choi,
Yes.
Councilor Culp,
Yes.
Councilor Melton,
Yes.
and Councilor Plunkett.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Resolution 2020-17 passes with a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Next up, we have other matters. Just real quick, I have a real quick one, and I think I speak for all the council when I just wanted to formally congratulate our Eagles for their recent appearance in the state finals. That football program is something that I know I'm very proud of. I think we're very proud of those young men and how they represented our community. So looking forward to seeing their continued success, but just wanted to note that here for the record. Let's see, we've got approval of claims. Any questions on claims?
I just want to beat up. I hate to beat a dead horse here, but I've had a number of people ask me about legal fees in the past as it relates to, just specifically in the last few months, we've had some meetings where legal fees have been brought up. And Tammy was kind enough to provide me with a year-to-date. As I've mentioned before, our budget for legal fees for the town of Zionsville was $470,000. Now that's not including some additional money for the RDC, but nonetheless, we're at $534,000 spent right now. The total number over budget is almost $65,000. So I've got some questions that I'm going to send to Tammy just to find out where that money's coming from. That obviously doesn't include anything that would be submitted at the next council meeting. $65,000 seems to be higher than what we've typically gone through as it relates to over budget in past. And it's important as we start to see some of the capital projects come through next year that we're going to be presented with, that we make sure we're keeping an eye on the budget because we've got a pretty tight one. So.
Valid point there, Councilor Plunkett. Any other questions or comments on claims? Well, I'll make a motion to approve claims.
Second.
Second from Vice President Trailer. You just beat you, Alex. Amy?
President Garrett,
Yes.
Vice President Trailer,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Choi,
Yes.
Councilor Culp,
Yes.
Councilor Melton,
Yes.
Councilor Plunkett.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good. Claims are approved by a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Since we are virtual, I'll just ask councilors to get with Amy to sign this paperwork. Some of it has some urgency to it. She's been enormously flexible, and she needs to meet you where you're at. She's willing to do it. So just coordinate with her, and I'd appreciate it. With that, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, Councilor Plunkett.
Okay,
Amy?
one more time. President
time.
Garrett,
Yes.
Vice President Trailer,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Choi,
Yes.
thank you. Councilor Culp,
Yes.
Councilor Melton,
Yes.
and Councilor Plunkett.
Yes.
Good. Glad to see Brian's letting us adjourn this time. Motion to adjourn approved, 7 in favor, 0 opposed. The next regular town council meeting is scheduled for Monday, December 21st, 2020 at 7:30 a.m. Determination of the need for a solely electronic meeting will be evaluated prior to the meeting and final notice will be posted in compliance with